Steve, and today we got a really cool interview with Dohn Joe Glass. This guy's art is really amazing. The rigs this guy is doing just really catches my eye. I love them. I can't wait to get to learn more about, this guy, Dohn Joe Glass. Really quickly want to throw it out there. Go check out Elev8dolls.com. It's our brand ambassador program. You get to put smiles on some faces. You get to be a part of these really cool adventures we got going on, and you earn credits towards gear, and you get to help put smiles on people's faces. It's really cool. Don't forget also we got Elev8 Veterans. It's a 501c3. Go check it out. And let's roll into this interview with Dohn Joe Glass. All right, we got Elev8 with Dohn Joe Glass, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So first thing I want to dive right in. How did you get into this glass game?
The big question, yes. So it goes back to the early 2000s. One of my good friends, he was doing the whole glass thing, started off doing soft glass, made his way into borosilicate glass, and just being the good friend that lived down the street, I was always there kind of watching him grow, touching the glass every once in a while once he finally got the beginning glass blower set up in the garage kind of going. And from there, I just was always exposed to the glass pretty early on, and it wasn't foreign to me. And then, grow up, life happens and all that kind of stuff. Years down the road, I'm working in kitchens and doing all that kind of stuff, and wasn't really working out for me. I'd done it for so many years, getting kind of burnt out and all that stuff. And I lost my job. And at the same time, that same friend came back to me needing some help doing production. And it wasn't foreign to me. He knew that I would be confident with my abilities to dive back into it and pick up the spoon pipe game. And go from there, and started working out in the garage barn actually out in Marysville, and crushing out spoon pipes as many as I can. And it took me maybe 500 or 600 to get back into it. And that's about the time when they stopped counting. And then we opened up a shop in Seattle. We moved from the Marysville barn, and the same guy opened up a shop, Chris Drags and David Contreras. And then I was kind of their apprentice, if you will, and doing all the spoon pipes and production, and kind of just went from there.
Wow.
The glass sort of found me, honestly. It was never something I intended on doing, so I feel really blessed to be where I'm at now. Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Do you find working in the restaurant business helped you also transfer into the glass, just dealing with the heat and pressure?
Absolutely. Maybe, yeah, the heat, maybe. Again, it wasn't foreign to me to begin with, so I knew it was hot, and I knew what to expect, and I knew you were going to get burned and cut and all that kind of stuff. But the work ethic, I think, was something that drived over pretty easily, in the fact that it wasn't hard for me to just a job. It was an art form for me because it was cool to express yourself through this medium, but at the same time, like, I was there to work, you know what I mean? I just lost my job, and he was like, hey, I'll pay you to make these spoons, and it'll be a thing, and you'll get better, and you'll be a glass blower. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Why not? And, history shows that it works out if you put your hard work in, and yeah.
And when you started doing the piecework like that, was that piecework, or were you getting paid hourly?
It was per piece is what we were doing. And I was doing like 20 a day for, 3 or 4 years, 3 years maybe, or something like that. And then, doing other things like bubblers and just basic production work. Like, that's really where I instilled a lot of, like, those two guys really put me to work, as far as making sure that I wasn't slacking on my, the shapes being the same. Like, they were really picky, and they did not let me slack at all. That's for sure. And I think that translated over to my work ethic now, with doing the spool cyclers and taking that same production mindset, as they've got to be the best thing I can put out, every single one of them. And it's a lot harder because the designs are hours of work versus 6 minutes for a spoon pipe, or less.
But it sounds like developing that muscle memory, and then being able to work with people that could see that you needed to improve was a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they were really supportive of it. And it was really a blessing for me to be in that environment, to get paid to learn, and also have the freedom to, once I got good and was able to, my skills showed that I was able to move on from that. I had that same, we'd established this studio in Seattle, and we had an amazing crew of people. We had so many friends come through, and I was doing classes too. So I was to the point where I was able to teach people how to blow glass. And I've got, God, I don't even think I can count them on one hand of how many friends, close friends that I have that I've taught to blow glass that are currently blowing glass and killing it right now. So
That's
it's pretty
nice.
cool. It's pretty cool to me to see them all grow and see them all get to the point where they're at. And they've all gone out and done their own things and learned from other people and found their own styles and skills. And it's cool. I
Do
love
you
it.
find when you were able to teach your friends and other people that also helped your skill set expand?
Yeah, it taught me patience. I mean, the more or harder part of the teaching was the like raw beginners, because we were doing this make a pipe with a pro kind of class, and it was something that was a really cool idea because it taught me to be patient, and it also really brought people into the studio. And it was like people that had never touched glass before and having to really teach them the raw basics of it. And it was a struggle for a little bit, and I started to get myself in a good teaching mindset, that patience really helped me. I think whenever I come across something that I struggle with or have never learned before, it's not because the glass isn't working for me, it's because I'm doing something wrong. So it's really easy for me to just be like, oh, well, I need to sit back and pay attention to what I'm doing, figure out how to make this work.
Hell yeah. Um, and then, so how did you get your glass name? It seems like it's maybe a name, a person's name, but it's not.
Yeah. So the Dohn Joe Glass is something that is, I've only had a few people get it right off the bat without explaining it. So it's a play on John Doe. So it's a Dohn Joe, and it goes all the way back to before I even was blowing glass. As a hobby, I was making electronic music, and it was something that never really like picked up. I wasn't really even good at it, but I spent a lot of time really working on it. And throughout that entire journey, I tried so many different things, and I didn't really know what kind of music I wanted to make. And at the same time, I didn't even know what I want to call myself. So I was like, oh, a John Doe is like somebody without an identity. So for me, and within the music scene at the time, it was really popular. Artists were like switching the first two letters of words around. Like Mord Fustang was a really popular electronic artist, and all these kind of other people. So I was like, oh, Dohn Joe's kind of catchy, and it was really just a placeholder at the time. I didn't really even like it necessarily 100% because I was like, I gotta find a cooler one later or whatever. And it stuck, and I just used it. And then sure enough, I got into glass blowing, and I'm sitting there like, what am I going to put my Instagram as? Dohn Joe Glass. Okay, all right, let's still go with the whole thing. And I don't know what I want to be as a glass artist, what I'm going to make. I'm just going on the journey. So, and it's really just stuck. And I've just kind of been dedicated to that identity, is to like, don't hold yourself to any standard of anything, and just be whatever you want to be, and don't really force an identity to define you, and just go wherever you want to go.
I like it, and you didn't
Yeah.
even like think about it. It just like
It kind of developed over time. Yeah, it was something that I was like, well, there's some potential there, and then it was like, oh, maybe I'll change it someday. And I even thought about changing it to like Armor Glassworks, which is the name of my LLC. But I was just like, nah, we'll keep it Dohn Joe Glass. That's what I'm known by. So
hell yeah, it's too late to change it now.
it's too late. Yeah, exactly.
So how long have you actually been behind the torch? When did you get started?
Let's see. If I remember, I did this recently. I want to say I'm around 9 years, maybe closer to 8.5 or 9 years. So going back to 2002 or three is when I first, if I go all the way back on my Instagram, there's a picture of like some rods laid out on, some stringers laid out on a rod rest. That was like the first picture I took on my Instagram, where I like got out and bought a few rods of color, because that was many Christmas gifts or something like that. And I just remember being so stoked. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna be a glass blower. This is my first little chance to not have to sit there and make spoon pipes. They let me do stuff on my own and make Christmas gifts for that year. And that was kind of the beginning of it in 2003 or four, something like that. I'd have to go back and look, but around 8 or 9 years.
Right on.
Close to hitting that 10-year mark. I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah, that's a long time to put into anything in your life, man.
It really is. Yeah.
Um, And so what items did you really start with? Was it mostly just pipes then? Did you make any
Yeah,
pendants or have any like,
I was really attracted to doing marbles like really early when I first started touching glass because I couldn't figure out the hollow work, like going way back to the garage with Chris. And then I was doing like cool marbles, implosions, and vortex marbles and stuff like that. And then, fast forward of doing all that production for a few years, I was doing a lot of flower pieces, mini tubes, that kind of, and then learned how to put perks in was the big game changer. Being able to insert perks through the bottom was like it changed everything for me. Shout out to Bowman Glass, he taught me how to do that, the Rage Cage, and that was like a game changer. It totally allowed me to like put perks in, the disc perks, and put sculptures on them, and it was like the beginning of the Mark II, and it just kind of has developed into a big core part of my skill set is doing that. But yeah, basically it was like a flow of going from production work into the recyclers were excuse me, were really in demand and stuff like that, and trying to also find my own design within there. And those Mark II, if you can see on my Instagram feed, there's Mark IIs that are like just basic banger hangers, but they have like a certain aesthetic that I really like at the time, and trying to make those work for a few years, and then moved on to recyclers. And I stumbled upon this idea to do the spool cycler, where it was based off of a few other designs. Like, you've got Contrabassa who's done those things. You've got other Birdshot and a few other artists who do these cool designs, but I wanted to incorporate them into more of the Quave Klein shape, that really popular shape. That was stuck with me for so long, and kind of sticking with that eclectic mindset where I didn't really have an own particular identity, but I take pride in being inspired by the artists around me. And then kind of just incorporating all these features that I find really aesthetically pleasing. Horns was something I really like. JDZ is a huge inspiration for me, Sheen and stuff like that. So they kind of all have had an influence on what I've put out there.
and how long do you think it took for you to like really, not just get your skills, but define you as an artist to where you were able to start coming out and
I still don't think I have, to be honest. Like it's such a growing process. Every day I go out there I'm not, working per se. Like lately for the last year and a half, I've been so blessed with the spool cyclers because it's kept me really busy, and it's kept me, I really like the design and I really like making them, and they're getting really popular and stuff like that. I had a lot of time to like really push my art to the next levels to where I think it could go. But I think about it all the time, and I feel like that's the inspiration that's going to keep me going for the next few years or forever, really, as long as I can stand behind that damn torch.
Nice. So did you have a actual mentor when you first started? I know you mentioned you were working with Chris, I think.
Yeah, Chris Drags and David Contreras. Those are the two guys who really like introduced me to the world of glass in general, from soft glass to Boro, and like all my interest in glass comes from them. And then from there, it was just me. Like I remember when he showed me glasspipes.org and all that OG stuff way back in the day, and looking at my first wigwag and being like, wait, so they took rods of color and they put them in a tube and sucked out all the air and pulled it down into, and then did what? And like, it was such a fascinating process to learn even back then. And I still find everything is a mentor to me because you find the inspiration from everything. But those two guys showed me like the world of glass. Like that was really the big introduction was from those guys. And then instilling those production skills too, man, that's important too.
Yeah, that's a real point I'd like to hit on is it's not just fun and games. It's about developing the habits, developing all that. Because if you can't develop the work, you can't develop the skills. And
yeah,
and those shows, it's clean.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I take a lot of pride in that because, like, again, those two guys were the ones that were setting 20 spoons in front of me and picking out 5 of them that were just barely off, but it wasn't what they wanted on in their cabinet or anything like that. So it was something I had to get good at really early on. And it was frustrating. It was really frustrating because they were really nitpicky, but I did it because of working in kitchens and stuff like that. You know, the food's got to be all the same. You can't cook one rare and one medium rare unless somebody asks for it. So it's something that I understood, but it was like such a free form thing that you kind of have to like stay focused on that, the product being the same, and it's a fun, but it's a lot of work, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. What classes, if any, have you taken? And if you've taken any, do you recommend classes to others?
So I've never taken like a paid class from an artist. A lot of what I've learned has just been through resources online, which are a lot more available now than they were. But just seeing stuff out there and trying it and all that kind of stuff. There's definitely artists I want to take classes from, but honestly, I never really had the money to do it. They were expensive, but well worth the money, I think. But it was just something I never really had the time or money to invest in. But hopefully someday I'd love to take a class from somebody. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah. Where do you get your inspiration in the creativity now for your glass?
Now, man, that's like it's a hard question because it's like I'm so eclectic with coffee. I agree. That's a good idea. Yeah, inspiration's a hard one because there's so many artists I really like. Mainly, Yushin, Banjo, any of those guys that are putting out those really intricate and symmetrical designs. JDZ is another big one because of his horn work. I pull a lot of inspiration from a lot of artists, and I try to mold it into what I would do with it and kind of create my own style out of it. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think that, a lot of people do things differently, and my inspiration comes from everybody else around me. And I think that's true to a lot of people too. So
Yeah.
it's hard to pinpoint it as down to like one person necessarily, but I'm trying to, is like you mentioned earlier, is like, where do you see yourself as an artist or whatever? But like, that's the hard part, is like being able to find inspiration that's like pure and not directly from another artist, being able to look at something and say, oh, I find inspiration, and then that come back to you behind the torch and push you in a direction is rare, I think. But some people it comes a lot easier, some people it doesn't. And I find myself, as I get better in an artist, I find myself finding those little pathways a lot easier than having to like look at something and be like, oh, I want to try and make that. And then throughout that process, figure out what I would do differently and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right. Yeah, you mentioned just talking about symmetry and everything. I notice a lot of your stuff has real uniform symmetry, and you put that in there. Did you find that as a really hard challenge to come together and do that? Because I don't fuck with the shit. It's so hard.
Yeah, the symmetry is something I still challenge, work hard on, and struggle with. Not every piece, but it's definitely been a really focal point for me because I knew it was challenging. And I knew that not many people were doing it at the time. So I was like, if I could focus on having symmetry being a part of it. And that was probably the first like intentional like aspect or that I wanted to apply to my work, that I was like, symmetry is something I really like. And then, what do I do with that? And then horns. Okay, horns are really cool. I like those. So let's figure out horns and all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of been this compound of things over the years, really.
Hell yeah. Do you have a preferred style or technique that you really love to do?
The horns is really something that I really like because it's such a free form. You can take, like, I look at a vessel that doesn't have anything on it as a canvas really, and how can I shape horns to fit that, and what kind of shapes. Like I've got a few shapes, the swoopy designs that I like to do, and stuff like that, and how can I place those on the piece to make it look cool. And it's a fun process to me because there's a few times where I know how I'm going to place the horns, and I have a few setup templates in my head that I kind of start with and where I start to place things. But a lot of it's free form, which is fun too. Yeah.
Not being, put in a box is always kind of a little bit funner than.
Yeah. And I like, there's obviously if the production that I've been doing lately has the same horn layout and stuff like that. But when I look at a piece that I haven't made before, I've never wrapped horns around it, or is more of a piece where I'm like, oh, let's have fun today kind of thing. I try to go out a little bit more freeform because it tends to be a little bit more exciting. I'm not sitting there like copy paste doing the same moves over and over again.
Right. What are your favorite items to blow? Pipes, rigs, pendants, ornaments?
I really like doing recyclers or anything new. I like doing anything that's new, like as long as it's a new technique or a new shape or just being like, let's try this. I think that's where I get the most excited, is when I get to try something I've never tried before.
The challenge, it sounds like, is what
The challenge, yeah. I'm not, and it's the assembly process and having to sit there and be like, okay, I need to put a handle here so I can do this, and then I need to switch it over here and all that kind of stuff. It's fun kind of figuring out the puzzle.
Yeah. And when you figure out the puzzle on this thing, you're like, after you get through it, you're like, man, I could have put the puzzle together totally different. And so
absolutely. And like, it's such a scientific process is the way I look at it too. Like, if you're wrong, like, that's a good thing. Can you sit there and figure out how you're wrong and what you did wrong and how you can do it better the next time and all that kind of stuff? It's all important to me. Your failures are like being able to look at how you did something wrong, and the next time you go out, if you can change it and do something better, then I mean, you're winning as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel glass blowing is not just an artistic form, but it is, you have your analytical mind and your creative mind, and it really takes both of them things to jive.
Yeah, glass blowing is a craft. To me, that's how I see it. It is an art form, but it's also a craft in that just like wood is an art, but it's also a craft, or painting, or any of these things that have a medium you're working with, that you can do literally anything that you can possibly create with. It's the sky's the limit, but the fact that it's so glass blowing specifically is applied to a manufacturing process. With this booming industry we have with marijuana legalization, they go hand in hand, and I think that's really the forefront of where glass is going to go, along with legalization, because the popularity is just going up. So yeah, that's where I try and really focus on the production and being aware of where that market is heading and what's going on there, because that to me is what the glass blowing is going to become.
Right. That's a good point. I interviewed Eli Mazzette, and he talks about this machine that was made in 1908 that was producing glass, and it literally, the only thing it doesn't make is pipes. So it's just a crazy ass machine.
What does it make?
Shot glasses, jars, bottles.
Whoa. Yeah. See, that's a whole other industry. I think over in Seattle, they have one of the bigger like glass bottle manufacturing plants, and like that level of glass production is like crazy. Like the amount of money and engineering and design that's gone into that is phenomenal. And like that to me is what's going to get applied to the glass pipe market as soon as it gets popularized enough. Like there's definitely going to be a machine cranking out spoon pipes at some point in our future. That's my opinion.
I think we have them called Chinese and Indian people right now.
Yeah, right now. But I guarantee you, man, in the next 15, 20 years, I guess, but I just where technology and demand is going for it, especially in America. I mean, all it takes is one guy with enough money to say, hey, design this for me to make it. And he'd be like, okay, let's do it, especially with glass and what they can do nowadays.
And with AI, like maybe they couldn't figure out how to get this machine to know the heat base in it. But I think with AI, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I guess that would be a really good application for that too. I didn't even really think about that. But I mean, if the level of programming people can do with computers, and like I've just been diving into 3D modeling and stuff like that, it's just a hobby and trying to apply more stuff to my brand and all that. And I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, the world I'm diving into is something I don't know if I'm ready for, but yeah, it's acknowledging it. Yeah. That the skill that it takes to apply to it. And man, the sky's the limit for the glass game. If it keeps taking off in the direction that it's going.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. What's your favorite color to work with?
Favorite color? That's a good question too. My favorite color is probably serendipity.
All right.
It's just such an OG color combo, amber purple over white, and it's always just it's got that like special place in my career of just being the color that I always wanted to work with. Like I've got some tubing I've been holding on to for a while just because I'm gonna like I've got a piece I'm gonna do with it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. Yeah, amber purple over white. That serendipity is probably like my holds the dearest place in my heart. But I love all colors. Like I try to keep a really big palette, and I love color combos too. So that's like really what I like is more than the layering the colors and all that kind of stuff. When you get those really unique, like I'd probably say my favorite layered color combo, it would be any like transparent purple over an orange or a cadmium red or something like that.
Oh, I've never seen that. That sounds neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. I recently did a piece that was greasy glass, neo opal, transparent neo opal over ghost OJ from PDX tubing. So it was just again a transparent purple over like a milky transparent purple over an orange. And you get this like fuchsia red, like sherbet kind of serendipity-ish looking color. It's probably my favorite color combo if I was to get specific about that question.
I like it, man. I like it. So what color do you gonna avoid that you've used it? And
oh gosh,
that
I would avoid probably fade to black.
all right.
Like I really like the color. I like the effect that it gets, but it's just not Boro.
It's a weird. It's the
it's
only
like
one that
off
comes.
COE so much that it just doesn't work with anything but itself. And yeah, it's a great color, but there's a few of them. I don't mess with a lot of like the unobtainiums and stuff like that. And I've used them before. It's just to incorporate them in the work that I'm doing now would be a little bit more troublesome with the workflow. And it's just kind of like,
It's probably going to be a waste of time, and it's
just a different work process, you know, when you got to change your garage temps and all that kind of stuff. Or I try to stick with colors that are really brutal to work, easy to beat up, because then I can just work the glass. I don't have to elongate working time. You know, I like to work colors that I can sleeve that don't affect the vibrancy of the color. I'll put a coat of clear on it so I can beat it up a little bit more. Just in the realms of being able to make things faster as fast as I can without really trying to worry about messing with a lot of crucible tubing that way too, because it takes a lot of the labor out of things.
Absolutely.
That's been like all those color companies right now, they're out there making tubes like PDX tubing. Those guys put out a lot of great work. Greasy Glass is putting out a ton of great tubing.
I love their glass.
Yeah. Just waiting for North Star to start pulling tubing again.
Yeah, no doubt, man. They're coming out with a lot of cool colors. Just
they are doing some amazing stuff, but oh man, I can't wait to start pulling some pomegranate tubing again.
No doubt, I love that color.
Yeah.
What's the most difficult piece you've ever attempted?
Most difficult piece is the token. So I made this piece I call it the token, the emerald token. I made it back, gosh, what year was that? It's like 2 or 3 years ago. And it took me about 3 weeks to make. It's banjo inspired piece. It's got a lot of that symmetry and that nice big worked foot, and then the vessel with all the symmetrical stuff around it. And yeah, it was a lot of work doing that one, and it came out great. I had like almost no problems throughout the process. I had one piece crack on me that I had to fix. And then that it's on my Instagram feed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys can find it, but
yeah,
that's my pride and joy right now. And I've done a lot of great pieces since that I really like, but that is something that I'm really excited to revisit in the future, is to do another one of those. Just kind of waiting for that golden moment in the future is when I have the time for it.
The freed up time.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you collaborate often?
I try to. It's been the collaborations and customs have been the hardest thing to find time for in the last year or so, because I've been focusing so much on the shop orders and trying to get as many of these spool cyclers out there as I can for people to have. But yeah, I like to collab. I've got a few of them lined up too that I'm really excited to work on. I'm just again waiting for those golden moments and like, okay, I'm going to set aside the orders for a month and crush out a couple collabs. And Yeah, I've got a Hondo collab waiting to do. My buddy Cove has some make some really cool flowers. I'm excited to make that piece. I've got a bunch of those I'm sitting on. I got my buddy Spore has a cool sculpted head I've been sitting on for really a long time, and I need to make that one. Yeah, I've got a drawer of prep work that I need to get on. It's just one of those things that are, I don't like to rush the collabs because they're really special to me when you're working with a friend and you're working with somebody else's artwork. It's not something, I don't treat it like any normal piece. I like to really put my time into it. So that's harder to do nowadays.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, you said that the most amount of time you put into a piece was about 3 weeks.
I was about 3 weeks. Yeah, I think so. And I was like really taking my time. I wasn't like behind the torch for 3 weeks by any means, but it was like, I set myself a little plan and I wrote everything out as what parts I needed and how many I needed. And now I was making them, and it was all new stuff to me, working with that much solid sculpture, and it wasn't just horns and assembly and stuff like that. And I think that piece has really kind of helped me apply that to it's really seen that my abilities go a lot further than what I'm doing now currently. So yeah, 3 weeks. It was a long one.
No doubt. Have you ever competed in any events before?
Technically the first, oh gosh, I don't think so. I feel like I feel like I am forgetting something, but I'm doing the Dr. Dabber Glass Games competition. I finished my piece a few days ago, actually, and I'm excited to share that one. I got to get some nice photos of it and get it uploaded. So that's something, that's a competition I'm currently in. I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't know.
That's all right.
It'll probably come back to me in like an hour and a half or something like that. Like, oh, that's right, I was in that one thing.
Do you consume cannabis yourself then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you prefer flower concentrates, or do you just like the plant?
I've gone back and forth over the years. Like right now I'm doing just flowers and stuff like that. I think getting old and stuff like that, my lungs can't quite take the concentrates as much anymore. I'm trying to be more cautious about that. But I really like flower a lot more, I think, if I was to choose one over the other.
Right on. Do you use any of your own pieces, or do you use other people's pieces?
Yeah. I have a little mini tube I use that again, that's something I want to start making more of, is more mini tubes and flower tubes and stuff like that. I usually make smoke out of stuff that is not something I would sell. Like any glass blower, we don't really smoke out of the nice stuff. We smoke out of the stuff that's cracked or fixed or whatever. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. I've got a few janky pieces that I smoke out of.
The glass gods allowed you to keep, in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I see it. I'm like, well, that's a new shop piece.
Yeah. What can we look forward to the future from you?
I actually got some cool stuff I'm working on. Like I said, the Dr. Dabber competition. I'm going to upload photos to that and hopefully be able to share some photos of what I made. Really stoked to share that one. All the collabs and all the stuff I'm working on. I'm also doing some cool stuff behind the scenes here. I had mentioned before, like how collabs and customs were really hard for me to do, because I've got a lot of my collectors that want customs, and just wanting to take the same amount of time that I do apply to my collabs on customs, because they're more particular in the process. Mm-hmm. It's been really hard to do with all the orders and stuff. So I've been doing customs for a long time, but I'm going to introduce a new system I've been really vague about it because I'm not trying to say everything yet, but I did want to make sure I said something here for any collectors who do watch this, that there is a cool reward system coming that is going to be associated with collabs, and that will also kind of be applied body of work later in the future. I just wanted to take something that was not really prominent in glass blowing, or at least the brand marketing side of glass. Not a lot of artists do a reward type of system. Again, that's being super vague because I don't want to talk a whole lot about it quite yet until I release it. But yeah, it should be pretty fun. I think it'll be an exciting way to kind of get more involvement with the collectors and more to look forward to as they collect my body of work, or and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I got some cool stuff I'm working on.
That's really nice. And one thing I feel I'd like to point out that as it looks like you really taken a good hold on it is marketing yourself and building a brand, and not just your work, but getting out there and creating things that are fun to be a part of you.
I'm glad that's noticed, because I always feel like I'm really slacking on it and I'm always behind.
That's life.
I see a lot of artists. Yeah, right. I see a lot of artists doing a lot more that I do, with like having merch available and stuff, and the time to dedicate to having merch and mood mats and all of these sort of accessories and goodies is really hard for me to find time for right now. But I felt like the taking time to do a reward system that kind of worked itself, I think was something that I could do for my customers that wasn't necessarily being done by a lot of other artists. And it's not even to be better than other people. I just wanted to be different in a way that unique, and that applied to really to do something for my collectors. Because, like, again, this is not something I thought I'd ever be doing. And it was something that has been building up over the last few years, and being able to give back to my community and apply my skill set to something to make my brand better, or make my even my transactions better and more enjoyable. Like, customer service is really important to me. It's not hard to answer DMs, you know what I mean? It's just something you have to do as part of a brand and a business. And you can be art all you want, but at the same time, the more you want to get out there, the more business oriented I think you should be, because that, again, to me, is what's going to drive our industry forward, and be more accepted, because I think that's the way the world's going, in my opinion.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's a business world. You know, the world runs on business. The world runs on marketing. And
I'm not a fan of capitalism and a lot of what it applies to our country, but I think that there's not to go political or anything, but I think that for glass, with the way marijuana legalization is going, like, there's nothing we can really do about the fact that glass is right alongside it, and the demand for that production, those import glass, will always be there. And we don't have to fight it, but we can sure as shit make an impact on what sort of local products we can provide that represent our culture, you know, and what we like, and that being normalized and that being accepted on a large scale, I think is what's, you know, something we should really look forward to as an industry. So that's why I'm like, I try to do it, represent myself true and to who I am, but not put on a big show. You know what I mean? I'm not really like I don't put my face out there as much as I'd like to. Like, even doing this interview is a pretty big thing for me, but I
appreciate it.
Yeah. It's definitely fun. And I want to be able to like develop the brand a little bit more. That's where coincides with where I think the industry's going.
Well, yeah, and I think your collectors will really appreciate getting to know you a little bit more in this thing, and I really appreciate getting to know you, and this is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Hell yeah. Do you find that you still have the same love and passion today as when you first started?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, there's good days and bad days. I think with being like, I wish I could live behind the torch, you know. At the same time, I think the more I learn to step away from the torch is the more I learn to appreciate it and be inspired to want to step back on it. It sounds counterintuitive or whatever, but
it's that balance.
It's the balance. And I tend to like neglect a lot of other aspects of my life that I should focus on, whether it's, you know, my health or other things that, you know, I got to be healthy to be able to step behind that torch. And it's been a battle. Like, even let's see, I'm about 5 between 5 and 6 months sober of alcohol too. So that's pretty cool.
That's not easy, man. Congratulations.
Which is pretty cool. I've been feeling pretty good about that. And I quit smoking years and years ago. So I'm making good things. Yeah, making good things happen.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Do you want to throw any shout outs out there, or did you miss anything that you want to add?
Oh man, shout outs. Yeah, shout out to Knuckles Glass. He's like my really good homie. He's got some cool stuff working on. Go give him a follow. The dude's like building a really cool trailer. He's gonna go travel around and be the traveling glass blower in a van with a studio and everything like that. He's like going for it, and really stoked to see his journey. So yeah, shout out to Knuckles. Shout out to my girl Julia. She is currently getting her master's degree, and she's like almost done with it. So
Fresh.
Super stoked for her. And shout out to all the glass blowers trying to make it right now. Keep killing it.
Hell yeah. And where can we find you at the best? Instagram, Facebook? Do you have a website? What's the best way to see?
Definitely Instagram. I'm hoping to have a website of some sort in the future and all that kind of stuff, but definitely Instagram's the place to find me, Dohn Joe Glass. Try my best to answer my DMs within an hour.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's it for me. I want to say thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem.
This was fresh.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
All right. Peace out, brother.
Have a good one, man. Nice to see you.
Man, that was really, really cool. I'm really, really stoked to get to meet these blowers like this. They keep getting cooler and cooler, and I don't know if each blower's cooler or just the interaction just feels more fluid with me. I absolutely love these. And getting to know Dohn Joe Glass was, it was amazing. Go check them out, go follow them. And then also, don't forget, we got brand ambassadors for Elev8 that we need some help with. And it's really cool. You get to help us build this brand, this lifestyle that we're building. Bring some exposure to other glass blowers, some that are big like Dohn Joe, as well as some that are smaller like maybe myself out there. You know, so we got this really cool thing. And you can also earn credits for surfers, glass, gear, whatever. And also check it out. We got Elev8 veterans.com. Anyways, Elev8, mind, body, spirit.